Alright, so today we're going to talk about how to make a mask. So we're going to take a 9x7 fabric, both of the outer patterns, so the outside of the pattern that you want to be seen on the mask is going to be facing each other. We're going to take a 7-inch elastic band and we're going to do in each of the 4 corners, attach the 2 elastic bands to the corners with pins, and then just connect the fabrics together to make sure that nothing gets wrinkled and what have you. So once we've finished attaching the elastic bands with the pins and the 2 fabric sides together, then you're going to take 2 pins, and at the top of the fabric you're going to make about a 2-inch space where you're going to start and finish when you sew. So you're going to start with where the red pin is at, and you're going to sew all the way around, making sure that the elastic stays in the corners, taking the pins out as you go. Obviously, you don't want to break your needle. Been there, done that. You want to make sure that when you're sewing around the outer edges past the elastic corners, that when you go down the edge, you don't sew on top of the elastic, because then you won't be able to pull the elastic out for proper ear pieces. So now when we get to the bottom of the mask, you're going to sew directly across the bottom. You don't need to leave any spaces. You just keep going till you get to the next side with the elastic and do the same thing for this side. So now we're just going to cut the thread from where we were sewing previously, and as you can see, we've sewed around the entire edge, leaving that 2-inch gap in the middle. Now we're going to flip it inside out, because there is the front of the fabric patterns that we wanted. And then just stretch it out to make sure the elastic is all the way at the end and that there's none remaining. I like to take a handheld iron and just kind of iron over it to make sure everything is flat and the fabrics are tight together. And I also like to take a floral wire. You can get it from the Dollar Tree, you can get it from Walmart, and just kind of put it at the top where the nose piece would go. It's about 4 inches wide on the top, just to give you a snug fit on the nose. I like to take 2 pins and just kind of pin them into place to make sure that they don't move when I sew around the edges next. So once you've got those pins in place, you're going to iron over it just to make sure everything is flat and straight. Then you're going to fold over the mask and then iron along the midline. Then you're going to take the 2 outer edges, fold in half to that midline, and then do the same thing essentially, creating 3 lines on your mask. We're going to flip over the mask, and then you now have 3 lines to create your pleats in the mask. Doing so, you're going to take pins, and then along those lines on the edges, insert the pins to make sure that those pleats stay in place. You'll notice when you're folding the mask that those iron lines really do give you a good guide to insert those pins and keep everything in place. Next, we're gonna sew around every edge of the mask. When I sew across the top of the mask, I like to use the zigzag pattern because it holds the floral wire in place very well, instead of it sliding down to the front of the mask. So when we get to the edge of the mask, this is when we're going to turn the mask to the side, and I like to change it to the straight pattern, going straight down the side of the mask. I go down one time, and then I go backwards just to give it a better seal together to make sure it's tighter and it's not going to come apart. And then we go back down after so. Now, once we've gotten to the bottom of the mask, we turn it again, and then you just sew straight across the bottom of the mask. Once we get to the other side of the mask, we're going to do the same thing that we did on the other edge. We're going to sew down once, we're going to reverse and go back over top of it. I like to try and stay on the same path, making sure that the lines are kind of straight. Sometimes you veer off, but you know, stuff happens. So then once we go back down and come back up, then once you end your mask, you're just going to go over top of the thread that you started with, kind of reverse over that, keep going, and then you're done. And just like that, we've made a homemade mask. Stay safe, you guys, and please wash your hands.